What is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be going over Roofman. So let's get into that. Hi, my name is Leo, and if you guys like talking about movie, TV show, video game later, or just anything nerdy, you are in the right place. And like I said, today we are talking about Roofman. So without further ado, let's get into the review. I had no previous knowledge of this whole scenario of this Roofman who broke into a absurd amount of McDonald's to make enough money to be able to become somewhat rich, and then him getting caught and going through this whole kind of journey with a new relationship and him trying to find himself and be a better person and things like that, even though he was technically a nice guy for the most part. But just a very interesting story that I really went to this movie having no knowledge about. The trailer just seemed extremely fun to me, and I didn't know it was going to be a true story until, it starts advertising that as a true story. So very, very interesting, fun little story here, following this guy, Jeffrey, aka the Roofman. But before I give you my thoughts about the Roofman, let me know what you guys thought about the movie in the comment section down below. Also, let me know if you guys have heard about this story previously, if you guys ever seen any sort of documentaries, or you know much about this. Is there more to the story than what the movie kind of leads on to be, or did they kind of overextend it and kind of made it a little bit more dramatic than it really was? Definitely let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. With that being said, let's go ahead and get straight into my pros. And start with my pros is this movie is just extremely fun. Such a unique concept. And it's not really a concept because it's something that actually happened in real life, but such a unique scenario of this guy who broke into a bunch of different McDonald's through the roof, hence the nickname Roofman. And after escaping from prison, he had to basically hide away in a Toys R Us for many, 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 many days. And through him hiding, he started to, grow fond of one of the workers and started to really explore a relationship with that person. So just a really wacky, crazy story. Something if you would tell that to somebody and say, hey, did you hear what happened on the news about this guy who did this and this and this and this? They'll be like, what are you talking about? There's no way that's true, but it is. And that is just absolutely insane. And it always proves to me that sometimes things that happen in real life can be much more extreme and crazy than what you could even imagine through just your own imagination. Sometimes real life is just that interesting, and that's kind of one of these moments with this movie where it is that interesting, where it's just such a weird, wacky concept. So it just ends up having a lot of fun, unique things going on all the time. A lot of good comedic portions of this movie. I thought a lot of the characters were really great. Of course, Channing Tatum, who I think delivered a pretty good, emotional and funny performance. He definitely had a little bit of the Channing Tatum isms, but overall, I thought he did pretty great in this role. Kirsten Dunst also did amazing. Peter Dinklage, I thought, was really funny as well. I wish he had a little bit bigger role in this. He was kind of more of like a bystander of the scenario that was kind of happening. They kind of seemed like he was going to be a little bit more important in the trailer, but overall, I still really just enjoyed his inclusion in this movie. I thought he was a great character as well, a very good comedic relief character. So overall, I just had a lot of fun with everyone here, all the characters, the story, just the concept, and just everything that kind of is going on all in between. Very, very fun. And one thing that I wasn't really expecting either, because coming into this movie, I was expecting more of a straightforward comedy, but there was a lot of drama and there was a lot of emotional stakes to this as well, with Channing Tatum and his this new discovered family that he kind of really weaseled his way into, which we'll get into a little bit later. But overall, I thought those moments between the Channing Tatum and that family and this little church that he's kind of joining because of Kirsten Dunst's character, I thought was all very sweet and emotional, and it definitely had a little bit of heartfelt moments in there that I wasn't really expecting, and I wasn't really expecting much from this movie either way. So it was a nice little surprise to have some good emotion thrown in there as well, on top of all the comedic stuff that's going on. But overall, that's really all that kind of happens in this movie. Is you have Channing Tatum's character that's in this Toys R Us, and him kind of interweaving himself with this family with Kristen Dunst, and you just have a lot of fun moments, a lot of emotional moments. You go through a bunch of different attempts of him escaping and trying to evade the police, which are really fun to watch as well and pretty exhilarating. But it does fall into a little kind of rinse and repeat, which we'll get into a little bit later. But overall, as a movie as a whole, I think it's definitely a fun little like family movie, a movie that you can definitely throw on during the Christmas time. I feel like this is kind of a Christmas movie in a way. It doesn't only lean into the Christmas holiday. There's a lot of holidays that it kind of goes through: Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. But I feel like overall, this is more of a Christmas movie than anything. So it is a little weird that it got released in October. I think this movie would have done a lot better if it was released November, December time. Nonetheless, I do think it's a really good, fun family movie, and it's definitely just a fun comedy drama movie that you can definitely throw on and just have a little fun with it. If this is just a fun movie, a concept or a story that isn't too extensive, but they did enough to kind of keep you intrigued the whole time and really relate to the characters and get yourself really attached to them as well. So I thought overall it was very, very nice in that aspect. Of course, I just want to make, I don't want to speak too much on it. The story is out there. I'm sure you guys can figure it out through like a documentary or just searching it up. But there is a lot of things going on with the Channing Tatum character, and kind of his like story arc as well is very nice. I kind of always was a good person, even though he's robbing people and stuff, but he's always been kind of a nice guy. So it kind of shows you his trajectory of him being like a criminal and trying to become a better person, and things with his actual like real family that he's had previously and his newfound family and stuff like that. So his character arc was a very fun one to kind of follow, a little bit relatable, but at the same time not really. There's not a huge amount of growth, but there's enough where you really invest yourself in his character, and by the end of it you do feel a little bad about how his story kind of ends out. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into my cons. And there's a few cons here. The biggest one is I do think this movie is a little too long. I think it's about 30 minutes too long. And the biggest reason why is because there is a lot of rinse and repeat of the same concept of Channing Tatum being in this Toys R Us, him sneaking out at night and hiding in the morning, sneaking out at night to go do some scandalous things, and then hiding in the morning, evading the cops, and then sneaking out at night or sneaking out during the day to go hang out with Kristen Dunst, and then coming back to the Toys R Us and hiding at night or whatever. It was a lot of that. This was a very tight knit movie. It probably 50% of it was in the Toys R Us. So it ends up being a lot of that rinse and repeat. And I feel like they really stretched out the time to really kind of go through those emotional beats with the Kristen Dunst character. And while I did enjoy all those moments, you definitely feel that runtime about halfway through where you look at your phone and you're like, oh my goodness, we're only an hour in a 2 hour and 5 minute movie. You definitely feel that length pretty heavily because of that rinse and repeat type of things that are going on in this movie. Again, I felt like if they cut 30 minutes out of this film, this would have jumped up probably a full star for me, because I do think it was generally that surprising and that good of a movie in terms of the comedic stuff and emotional stuff. It just felt a little too long for what it was. And I think lastly, the Channing Tatum character is a little weird for me. I do think he's somewhat relatable, and it's a charismatic character, a character you can definitely really invest yourself in emotionally. But I do think he comes off a little strong to the point where sometimes it's a little cringy or a little hard to watch, where he really, really tries to insert himself into this family with Kristen Dunst and her two daughters, where it comes off a little weird and a little too much, where in any other scenario, people will be running for the hills because that just seems like a disaster of a relationship. So it's one of those characters where you're just like, please stop trying too hard. This is a little weird, a little cringy, a little awkward, very, very, very just forward person, very forward personality. And again, this is based on a true story, so I'm sure that's how the person really was. But overall, it was a character that at times can really make the moments in this movie feel very cringy or very awkward, or something where it was a little bit difficult to watch because of how forward he was as a character and how he really tried hard to insert himself into this family and didn't really let the motions kind of go through this relationship. He day one, first date, he's already staying until past midnight with his daughter building Legos. Overall, that sounds like a sweet, kind of guy. He seems like, he cares about your daughters also more than just you and him. He wants to, care about your whole family. That sounds nice in retrospect. But when it's your first date, I feel like that's a little too much. And you get a lot of those moments with this character that just come off a little weird and awkward. But overall, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I was very glad that I went to go check it out. Again, a little too long, but I do think it's a very fun movie to go and take out the family and just have a nice little fun time. And then, if you don't want to take your whole family out to go watch this movie, it is 100% one of those movies. Once it gets on streaming, I definitely recommend checking it out and having a little family night. I think you guys will all very much enjoy it. But again, if you guys like talking about movie, TV show, video game later, or just anything nerdy, you are in the right place. Make sure that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you.